Hi, welcome to another edition of Nutrition in the Kitchen. I'm Kathleen and I'm one of the nutrition educators here at Cornell Cooperative Extension, and today we're in the commercial kitchen of the Broome County Regional Farmers Market, which is located on Upper Front Street in Binghamton. Each month we feature a different vegetable, and today we're featuring potatoes. And the recipe we're making is called Colcannon. So Colcannon is a recipe that's very traditional to Ireland, and there are very many different variations on it. A lot of people make it in very different ways with different types of potatoes. Sometimes it's made with kale, sometimes it's made with cabbage. Many will say that it is a great vehicle for butter, believe it or not. So it's basically a type of mashed potato, and then you add into it kale and onions. But before we do that, I just want to mention some more about potatoes. There's a lot of different varieties, and one of them is your traditional baking potato. This is a russet potato, and the reason that they're very good for baking is because they have a higher starch content. So they're really great when you cut them open, they hold their form, and they also are great for putting the sauces like, sour cream or butter or something on it. So they're great for that. Another one is the red potato. Red potatoes have a little bit more of a waxier feel to them, and they hold their shape also, but they have not as much starch to them, and so they're good for boiling, they're good for steaming, also sometimes good for putting in salads. So that's the red potato. And then also a sweet potato. And I'll mention, like, most potatoes are very high in vitamin C, and another nutrient that they're very high in is potassium. Potassium actually helps to eliminate sodium from your body. So if you have a diet that most Americans kind of have a diet higher in sodium because of the processed foods that we have. So one way to help balance that out is to have more potassium. And one sweet potato can give you like 400% of the potassium, potassium you need for the whole day. It is also very rich in vitamin A, and vitamin A is especially great for our immune system. So this is especially good in this cold season and seasons where we're concerned about being ill. This is a great nutrient to have more of. Another one is these little tiny potatoes. And sometimes they're called fingerlings, sometimes they're more stretched out and they actually kind of look like long fingers. But the greatest quality about these is that they come in a lot of different colors. So right now we're seeing some of the red and yellow kind of ones. Sometimes they come in a little bit of a purpley color. So they're really beautiful when they're steamed and they're put out just like they are in their skins. And they can also be very nice in like a potato salad or a salad with like an oil dressing on it. So those are the fingerling ones, or sometimes like they'll get new potatoes, like just baby potatoes. So the one that we're using today is more of a yellow potato. Sometimes they're called Yukon Gold. Sometimes they're just called yellow potatoes. But the thing about these is that they do have a medium starch content to them, which makes them super great for mashed potatoes. And that's what we're going to be making as the main part of the meal today. So your Yukon Golds, also they have a very thin skin, so you can either cook them with the skin on or you can take the skin off, depending on how you feel. Many of the dishes that I've seen for Colcannon, they do peel it. On the other hand, I like the flavor of the skins in it. Adds a lot more nutrition to it by keeping the skins with it. And there's also some talk that if you boiled your potatoes in the skin, it holds that starch in, and so you're not losing as much of the flavor in the water. So some people will boil them whole and then like basically rub the skin off because it's so easy to peel. You can just basically push them off. So to cook these, what you're going to do for the Colcannon is we're going to make basically mashed potatoes. You can take the potato and we're just going to cut them in quarters. And now I have cooked enough for a whole family, okay? So I actually used a 5-pound bag of these potatoes, and it's going to seem like maybe for a lot for you, but again, you decide on your family size and just adjust accordingly. And you'll see inside here, it definitely has a yellow color to it. I want to show you just for a minute the red one. So even though it has a red skin, you can see the big difference between the insides of these potatoes. A lot of different colors to it. All right, and of course the sweet potato has that orange color to it. So what we're going to do is we'll put all of these into a pot with boiling water. Just cover the potatoes. This isn't like pasta where you need a lot of water. In fact, that sometimes slows down the process. So put them in cold water. You want to start with cold water because if you put them in hot, it cooks faster on the outside and then the inside's not quite as done. So it's more uniform cooking if you start with cold water. Just enough to cover it. And I have done that already. I'll bring them out in just a minute. So while those are cooking, you want to cut up your kale and your onions. What I've used here is a whole sweet onion, so it was about this big. That's a whole sweet onion. And then kale you can buy in bunches. This is kind of a curly kale. Sometimes you can find kale that is flatter. And kale is something that is grown throughout the year regionally because they have what are called high tunnels or greenhouses. So you can actually get freshly grown kale at the market throughout the year. And the benefit of buying that at the market is that it does stay fresh for a longer time. It's picked sometimes the night before, so you've got very fresh product. So with kale, you'll see there's this there's this thick stem to it. If it's not too thick, you can actually use this for the Colcannon because you're going to saute it. So if it's very thick, you would just take your knife and run it along the edge of it and just take that part off. Now, like I said, I don't feel like this is very thick, so I'm just going to cut it like this into very small pieces. And you want it chopped because when you're eating it with mashed potatoes, you don't want to have great big chunks of greens with it. As I said, many people make Colcannon in different ways. Cabbage is a very popular way to make Colcannon as well. So you would saute your cabbage with onions. So I'm just showing you, you want it pretty fine. You can cut this way and then cut this other way to get it smaller. Okay. And you don't want your stem pieces to be much bigger than that. So I have this already chopped up here. And on the stove here, I have a pan, and I have already put like maybe a tablespoon or so of butter. So you're just going to put the chopped onion in there. Now there too, some people like to saute the onions first. I'm kind of a quick cook, I guess. I'm not a super careful sort of cook. So you can start sauteing them if you want to, or you can just put them in with the butter and then add all of this kale. You see, it looks like, wow, that's an awful lot of vegetables, but you'll see in a moment how much that really cooks down. Another thing you can do is add a little bit of moisture. So if you want to add some liquid to it to kind of steam it, you can use some of the potato water and put it in to help steam it. So I'm going to put this on the stove, and I will turn it up in a moment. Well, if we were cooking this live, I would cook it, but I'm going to let it sit there. You put the lid on it to keep the steam in. And all of the greens that I have cooked already, ouch, yep, I forget there's a pilot light. So all of the greens that I have cooked already, this was that same amount. So you can see how much it actually cooks down, okay? And I'm going to set them over here again because I'm going to bring out my mashed potatoes. So here we have, this is actually 5 pounds of potatoes that were cooked. And I've left just a little bit of the water on them. Another way that you can cook them is drain them and then just put the lid on and it continues to steam them, so that adds a nice quality to it. Another thing I read is that if you add butter, oh, I'm not going to burn my hand again. If your butter is melted already, just make sure I do this. If your butter is melted already and you add it to your mashed potatoes, it makes for a creamier potato. So this is actually a full stick of butter, okay? A 1/4 pound or a 1/2 cup. I'm going to put it in with the potatoes. Just have that over here. And then you mash them before adding any milk. Now some people don't even bother adding milk to it. And it really is a matter of taste. How do you like it? You know, how chunky do you like your mashed potatoes? Some people will mash their potatoes with a fork, which I think is very time consuming. So potatoes sometimes get a bad rap because they're a starchy vegetable, but when you make them they are a complex carbohydrate, which means that they are filling, and they take longer to digest because they're a complex carbohydrate. It takes longer to break down, and so they tend to make you full and keep you full longer, which is a good thing. And as I say, they're high in potassium and vitamin C. So you can see here it's kind of almost like a rough mash. It's not super creamy yet. So I'm going to add the milk to it. And this is about half a cup of milk. So I'm just going to add that in. And it'll make it creamier. So now you can see I can stir it. Some people go so far as to put it in their mixer to make them really fluffy. But Colcannon is a simple dish, and even though many times it's associated with St. Patrick's Day, it's really more traditional for Halloween. And at Halloween time, they put things in them to find them to give you luck through your year. So now we're going to add the kale and onions to the potatoes. And it's very tender. So we've cooked the kale for maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And really, it's a matter of testing it and seeing how soft it feels. You want it to be soft, not chewy. Okay. And you stir it all in with your mashed potatoes. And again, I've said, you know, like people make it in different ways. Some people have even made this with carrots, in which case you would put the carrots, you could boil the carrots with the potatoes at the same time, and you get soft carrots, and it adds a lot of color to it, adds a little more flavor. Okay. So there you have that, and I'm going to put it in here. And if you are not having to watch what you're eating and you like butter a lot, this can be a very comforting food where you put some butter in the middle to serve it. Okay, this is not all of it. It's okay, this is good, right? So the traditional way to serve it would be to put like a little pocket right here, and you put some butter in there too. So this is this again is called Colcannon. Oh shoot. To taste, you would add your salt and pepper. So it's up to you as to how much you like to put in there. I do have, this is probably a couple teaspoons of salt to go with the entire 5 pounds. 5 pounds of potatoes, half a stick of butter, a full onion, and a big, large bunch of kale. So there you go, and I'm not going to put the pepper on that. I think people would add that to their own taste. So there's your Colcannon. As I said, it's a traditional Irish recipe. I want you to know that we are featuring potatoes through the month of March. March is National Nutrition Month, and so we are featuring the potato at the farmers market. Broome County Regional Farmers Market is holding a cooking competition for National Nutrition Month this March, highlighting the potatoes. There will be 4 recipes featuring potatoes demonstrated throughout the month, beginning with this Colcannon recipe. So we encourage you to stay tuned to the Broome County Regional Farmers Market Facebook page to learn how you can enter, and the winner will receive a $50 gift certificate for the farmers market. The Broome County Regional Farmers Market is open year-round, every Saturday from 9 to 1, and we encourage you to come on down. There's lots of great potatoes, there's kale, there's onions, everything you would need to make this dish. So come on down and check it out. Thanks.